Hi, and welcome to The Bridge. Thanks so much for tuning in. We are a Markham Community Church located in the Greater Toronto Area with a passion for helping you engage in an authentic, life-giving community. We would love to connect with you further. Please take a moment and check out our website, where you can find more information about our ministry. Well, we hope you're blessed by today's message.
Can we do something different today? Yeah, we up for that? Can we stand together? And something that we do as a family in the Chung household, and it might feel a little bit awkward, a little bit weird, but some of the things that we do when we pray, there's two ways that we pray in the Chung household. We either hold hands before meal times, or we huddle right before we send them off to school. And so I know this might feel different or uncomfortable, but whoever you're with, if you can just hold their hand together. If you're new here, this isn't something we do every week. All right, so, but this is why. I feel like we are called to be a family. The Church of God is called to be a family. And I want to take a moment to pray together as a family. Can we do that? Yeah? Let's pray. God, we are so grateful for this family. We're grateful for this moment that we have collectively to learn, grow, challenge. And Father, I look even in this congregation, God, I don't know what our family struggles might be like. I don't know what our families look like, but you know, God. And I know that, God, that you have called us not to feel alone, that you have allowed for this church and churches to exist so that people don't have to travel alone in whatever circumstances that they might be in. And as we have a chance to navigate through today, I pray that you will lead and guide us. Thank you, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen. Yeah, have a seat. Thank you. Thank you for doing that social experiment with me. I appreciate this time, and Pastor Brian, thank you so much for this moment that I get to share with you. It's not often that I get a chance to share with you, so I hope that it's wise. I crossed some people today. I said, I'm losing my marbles, right? In here, I have 52 marbles. One of the things that we do in Generation Bridge is I share with them each seminar that we go through. I said, we have 52 weeks. 52 weeks where our kids are that age, and then they move on. 52 weeks. I remember when I turned 39, I said I have 52 weeks until I turn 40. Or just stay 39, right? When Luke was born, my first son, I said, we have 52 weeks, right? I remember lifting him up and shoving my face in his butt to see if it smelled, and turning to my wife and I said, we cannot do this all the time without looking weird, right? It's just not gonna work. If I did it with he's 7 now, look weird, right? 52 weeks. That's the picture when he lost his first tooth. We were going through doing this photo album, and we found this picture. He was eating a piece of chocolate, which later we found out he was lactose intolerant. But he was eating that chocolate, and in the midst of eating it, he lost his tooth. And it's this memory that we'll always have. But it's over now. That tooth is gone. It ain't coming back. It's not coming back. When my dad turned 69, I said to myself, there's 52 weeks before he turns 70. How many more conversations am I going to have with him? 52 weeks. This is what this whole idea of Generation Bridge was based around, that we only have this 52 weeks to make a significant impact before they shift on. You ever have that moment when you look back on your kids and you're thinking, man, when did the time go by? Or you look at your parents. If you're a kid in here, which we all are, because we all have parents, right? And you look at your parents and say, man, where did the time go by? Where did the time go by? And what this is to do is to help be a symbol that for whatever parents want to do this, that they take a marble bout for every week to help them understand that there's only now 51 weeks, 50 weeks, 49 weeks that we have left with either our kids, our parents, our neighbor, and whoever it may be. I think about it like this. I have 52 Sundays to make an impact for our young adults to know who Jesus Christ is. I have 52 weeks. And in the 19 years of ministry that I've had, I've went to several funerals where I've had students have their parents die and say, man, I wish I took full advantage of that time when they were alive. And I've had parents, I've gone to funerals where kids have died either through a car accident or whatever it may be, and the parents turning to me and say, man, I wish I told them that I loved them. I wish I took advantage of the time when I knew that they were here. And I said to myself, in those 52 weeks, how can we maximize those 52 weeks? How can we maximize it so that when we look back, we think, man, I didn't waste those 52 weeks. Man, I look back and I say, man, I did everything that I could in those 52 weeks. Now, many of you guys might have kids or grandkids, and you're thinking, I zoned out already because this is a family kind of thing. But believe it or not, this talk is for all of us here. I believe that when it comes to the family, that it takes all of us. It takes all of us. And that's not just the parents, but that's all of us working together. Now, when we look at kids, there's five things? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6 things. 6 things that kids really need, okay? 6 things that kids really need. Number 1, kids need love. Love gives them a sense of worth. Love tells them, hey, I feel something. 2, kids need stories. Stories give them perspective of life and situations. I don't know many sermons, but I do remember the story of Pastor Brian's house burning down. Do we all remember that? Yeah. Does anybody remember what the sermon was about? You don't have to answer that. All right. Stories matter. 3, work. Work gives them significance. I'm not talking to put them to work, I'm talking about give them responsibilities. We find significance in our work, don't we? In the jobs that we have, it gives us measures of significance. When we give work to kids, it gives them significance. 4, fun. It gives them connections. Fun connects people. At the end of young adults, you know what we do? We throw out board games. It's not like they just hang out for hours on end. They're playing board games. They're connecting with each other. And they're connecting with new people through a venue that is kind of neutral, through board games. Fun gives them connections. 5, friends. Friends give them a sense of belonging. Friends help them to say, it kind of gives them identity, helps them understand who they are. 6, words. Words give direction. Words give direction. And when you look at these 6 things that kids need, you might look at this and be thinking, I want those things too. I mean, I need all those. I want fun. Or I need words. I need things to keep me up here. I love stories. I want to feel love. Some of you guys might be thinking, well, I need this too. How much more do kids need this? How much more do kids, children, youth, need this? So that when they get older, that they can do the same thing with their kids. So when we look at the family, what is the purpose of the family? What is the purpose of the family? When God created families, what was the purpose of it? I thought about it. I was like, was it so that we could feel pain? Like my family's arguing. Oh, right? Is it so that we can deal with arguments over and over again and think about what patience is? What is the purpose of the family? I think that the reason why God would create the family is to reveal God's character like nothing else in creation. I feel God's character is defined in the family. It's defined in the family. When you look at 2 people getting together, it shows us God's pursuit, how Christ would do whatever he could for the bride. When you look at having this understanding of kids, the ups and downs of parenting, it shows God's tenderness and patience towards us as his children. Towards us as his children. So the question is this: how do we allow for kids to experience the love of God so that they can perpetuate what the purpose of the family is? Let me say that again. How do we allow for kids to experience the love of God so that they can perpetuate what the purpose of the family is? Now, I'm going to throw some stats to you guys and gals. When I say guys, it's all encompassing. But I'm going to throw some stats to you about what's happening in the church in Canada, okay? This comes from a statistic that was done called Hemorrhaging Faith, taking statistics from a bunch of churches across Canada. So these are Canadian statistics, okay? Not American, Canadian statistics. They're happening right now. Number one, only 1 in 3 Canadian young adults who attended church weekly as a child still does so today. 1 in 3. Of the young adults who no longer attend church, half have also stopped identifying themselves with the Christian tradition in which they were raised. 3, 4 primary toxins keep young people from engaging with the church: hypocrisy, judgment, exclusivity, and failure. 4, the church in Canada is losing kids at an alarming rate. It's not just teens, but little ones as well. So I'm not just talking about young adults. I'm not just talking about teenagers, but I'm talking about little kids as well. The fastest growing religion is what's called the nuns. The nuns is this: those with no religion, preference, or affiliation. It says 40 to 50% of kids who graduate from a church or youth group will fail to stick with their faith in college. 40, that's half. I think I have 2 kids. That's like only Luke or only Lois, right? Our world is becoming increasingly secularized, presenting challenges to students that may not reveal themselves until these young people are far beyond our reach. Think about that for a little bit. Lastly, kids are hurting. Many leaders now acknowledge that there's more hurt out there than we realize. Growing up today takes its toll on every teenager, not just those who we consider at risk. Meaning this, that a lot of times we are doing catch up because we see someone is at risk, so we do something about it. But we don't know that actually a lot of our kids right now, they're dealing with a lot of stuff. They are. But we don't react until they're at risk. We don't react until they're at risk. Their sense of isolation, pain, and struggle is often combined with an absence of positive social support, leaving many feeling like they're totally on their own to navigate the rapidly changing social environment. David Elkind says this. He says, today's child has become the unwilling, unintended victim of overwhelming stress, the stress born of rapid, bewildering social change and constantly rising expectations. And some of us, we might look at this generation, kids, youth, young adults, and say, man, they're entitled. We might look at them and say, man, they're selfish or non-committal. But what we don't realize is that many of them are hurting. Many of them are struggling. Many of them are working through this idea of identity. So the question is, what do we do? Is there no hope? What do you think that we can do? I think we need to stop blaming culture and look at what we, as the parents and church, can do. So I think there's 4 things that we can do as parents and leaders, community, neighbors, aunts, uncles, cousins, that we can do collectively. Number 1, I feel like you just got to show up. You must show up. If you've ever want to have influence in anybody's life, you have to show up. And I'm not just talking about showing up to like some person's hockey game and being on your cell phone. But you got to show up and be present. Show up and be present. And I'll tell you, this isn't easy to do because it's not the most rewarding thing in the world. Like if you go show up in the nursery and you're changing a diaper and it's like full of whatever, okay? That kid's not going to look back at you and send you some props saying thanks, right? It's not happening. It really isn't. It's not like a junior high is going to look back at all the times you took them out to McDonald's and be like, oh, yeah, thanks, man, right? It's just not happening. And parents, you can confess to that. Can you countless times where you have bought them things and you're like, you got something to say to me, right? You got something? Yeah, thanks, Mom. Thanks. I'll tell you, it's an unthankful job. It really is. For many of our youth leaders, children's leaders, they know that's an unthankful job. It really is. But I'll tell you this, if you are consistent, that if you keep showing up, that they'll remember. They'll remember. I want you to take a moment right now. Think about someone that showed up in your life, that kept with it. Because I'm pretty sure that there's people in your life that has showed up in your life, more than just your parents, but there's people in your life that showed up and said, I'm going to be there for so-and-so. I can count the amount of people that were there for me, that showed up, took me to university. I was so thankless. I was so thankless. This is the thing. This is what Jesus did. In John chapter 4, he meets this Samaritan woman. And this Samaritan woman, if you don't know, Jewish people and Samaritans, they had this Jewish people really did not like Samaritans. But this Samaritan woman is very exceptional. This Samaritan woman is coming to the well at the highest point of the sun. It's hot. And she's coming by herself. Why? Because even her own people didn't like her. Even her own people. But this is what Jesus does. He shows up. And he does something that no Jewish person would ever do. He talks to her. He says, excuse me, can I get a drink? And she's dumbfounded, like, no, Jewish person talking to me. Right? It's this moment. But Jesus showed up. He showed up. He didn't just show up for this Samaritan woman, but he also showed up for guys like Zacchaeus. If you don't know the story, Zacchaeus was this short little man who was a tax collector. Everybody hated him because he would steal people's money. And he climbed this tree to see Jesus. And Jesus could have responded like, bro, get off that tree. What are you doing? You hurt yourself. The gravity, the amount of height that you're short, But no, you know what he says to him? I'm coming to your house today. I'm coming over. He didn't just say, let's have a conversation. No, let's hang out. I'm going to show up in your life right now. I'm going to converse with you. I want to hang out with you. I want to hang out. I want to have a conversation with you. Do you know why Pastor Ruth and Pastor Rod are so effective at what they do? And why their leaders are so effective in what they do? They show up. I hear countless stories about leaders and Pastor Ruth, Pastor Rod going to graduations, basketball games, helping out people with their prom, right? Like, they show up. They show up, and that's why they're so effective. I'll tell you this, parents, I know you're busy, but if you want to have influence in the lives of your kids, and church, I know we're busy, but if we want to see this next generation look different, and you want influence, we got to show up. Because we can command things from our kids when they're little, but that influence is going to be gone when they get older. I did this analogy in Generation Bridge. I'm not going to wash myself with this, all right? Think of your kid like this bar soap, okay? When they're young and they dry, they listen to everything that you say, you do. You can command them to do whatever and they'll do it, right? Because, they're little. You're bigger than them. But here's what happens. As you add a little bit of water, what ends up happening? It gets slippery. And if we keep going on that way, commanding them to do certain things, having no influence in their life, having no relational connection with them, and we still try to parent them the same way, what's going to happen? It's going to slip out. But what if we have influence? What if we have influence in their life and we hold on to that soap and we're not holding tight anymore, but there's that connection because we have influence. All of a sudden, we're still together. We still can hold on to that soap. They won't slip out. You gotta show up. You gotta show up. We were talking in the Generation Bridge seminars, and one of the things I love about those seminars is parents getting together, and they're sharing with me great ideas. They're talking to me and saying, Sam, this is some things that we've been trying out. These are some things that we've been doing. One of the issues with video games and saying, man, I don't know what to do with my kids, with Fortnite, this is crazy, I don't understand. And this is what one of the parents said. I love this. They said, I just sat down and watched them play. I sat down and watched them play. And I hung out with them while they were playing. And they spent time together through an event activity that they enjoyed doing. Helped them understand why you say 5 minutes and they can't get off in 5 minutes. right? Show up. Show up. And sometimes showing up is doing things that you might not like. But what if we were to show up? Number 2, model. Model. I've had countless parents ask me, they're struggling and saying, I want my kids to share with me. I don't know, how do I get them to share with me? And the question I usually ask with them is this: how much have you shared with them? If you are expecting your kids to be vulnerable, have you been vulnerable? If you're expecting your kids to know what it means to be vulnerable, then you got to teach them what it means to be vulnerable, what it looks like to be vulnerable. If you don't want your kids to lie, you don't lie to them, right? It just, where are they going to learn everything? They're going to learn from us, and we got to model. Here's the good news: is that we get to model collectively. We get to model collectively. It says this in Exodus 20, verse 12. It says, honor your father and mother, that your days may be long in the land that the Lord your God is giving you. Here's the problem. When I look at this verse, if I were to tell my kid, honor me, that's what the Bible says, boy, right? He's going to turn to me and say, what does honor mean? Right, Lois is like, I don't know, but we better do it, right? Here's the realities is that if I do not honor my own parents, how will he ever know how to honor me? If I don't honor the people around me, how will he understand how to honor others? Freedom says this: no interhuman relationship is so basic as that between children and parents is the fundamental order of creation. At no age do people cease to be children of parents. The importance of this command is measured not simply by its foundational relationship to society, but also by its nurturing role for those who will inevitably function in this context. And what he's saying is this: he's saying parents, leaders, aunts, uncles, neighbors, how we treat our children and those around us, our kids pick up all of that. If we're in the car and we have bad-mouthing a person because they cut us off, what do you think our kids are going to do when they're in the car? They'll start bad-mouthing them too. That guy was such a jerk. What is he thinking about? And this is what I would say. The bottom line, you got to be the person you want your kids to be. You got to be the person that you want your kids to be. We got to be the church that we want our kids to be. We got to be the church that we want our kids to be. If we don't model it, how will they ever know? If we don't model it, how do we ever know? One of my old students came to me the other day. He said, Sam, let's go for dinner. So he picks out this location. I'm like, I can't afford this place. Where are you taking me, right? And we finally get there, and we're sitting at the table, looking through the menu like, bro. And he turns to me, he's like, Sam, this is on me. And he says, I'm working a great job now, but I remember you were in part-time ministry at the time. This is way back when, 15, 16 years ago. You were in school, and yet you found ways to get me pizza. I was like, dude, this isn't pizza, bro, right? And he's like, I know, this is just to add up all the pizzas together. I said, you don't need to do that. He said, I know, but this is what I am doing. I said, just the way that you bought me pizza, that's what I'm doing for the kids after me at my church. Believe it or not, it's not just parents that need to model. What if we were to all model? What if we all modeled to this generation what generosity looked like? What friendships look like? What if we modeled that collectively? These kids, when they grow up, they will remember. They will remember. Don't miss out on motivating them. Third thing is we need to mentor. If you're showing up, if you've built trust, if you're modeling, and you would like to see these kids get to the other level, once you get there, once you have that influence, once you have that trust, this is where things get fun. This is where things get fun, where you get to impact kids with wisdom, with truth. You get to pour into them skills, and they'll trust you. I remember the kids would trust me. I was teaching them how to shave wrong, right? But they just trusted me. I got to that place. Oh, they're sorry. Here's the thing. Once you get to that place where you can mentor, you get to challenge them to another level as well. You get to see things in them and say, this is what I see in you. This is where I see God taking you. This is what I see the capabilities of you doing. But if that influence wasn't there, if that modeling wasn't there, that wouldn't be possible. I imagine it like this. Jesus turns to Peter, and there's this verse where he says, on this rock I will build my church. And he's talking about Peter. He's saying, Peter, I'm going to build my church on you. You're going to help facilitate and lead this church. Can you imagine if there was no relationship? Peter's fishing one day. Hey, Peter, you're going to lead the church later. He might be crazy, right? But he had influence. He modeled. They had a relationship. That's why it was capable to get to that place where he said, Peter, I'm going to challenge you. You can do this. Nigel, one of our junior high leaders, takes a bunch of grade 9s and he teaches them how to lead. Ruth does this all the time with her kids. And she says, when you get to this age, you get to work at the soundboard, and you get to do this, and you get to do that. And they're teaching them how to become fuller in their potential. Do you know that if you look at this picture behind me, Pastor Rod is away with 72 junior highs and leaders. 72! They had to take 2 buses. 2 buses. Can you imagine the influence that they're putting on right now? Do you know who's leading this retreat right now? It's not Pastor Ron and their leaders. You know who's leading it? Junior high leadership. Senior high that Nigel has mentored, poured into. They lead all the games. They lead all the activities. They lead all the meal times and say, this is what we're going to do at the meal times. Junior high leaders are doing that. How did they get to that place where junior high leaders are capable of doing that? Influence. Do you think Nigel just stepped up and said, we're leading a retreat, who wants on board? No. He built influence. Then he modeled it. The last thing is this, is we need to motivate. Your words matter. We shared how every kid needs to hear words of encouragement. Your words matter. Your words change people. Your words shift how people think. Your words will allow a kid to go from here to here because they'll say, I trust you. I know that you have been investing in my life. I trust you. And they'll be motivated by our words. When's the last time we went up to kids, somewhere in junior high, senior high, man, love what you're doing. God's doing some great things in you. I see great potential. Words matter. The other thing is story. Your story matters. I talked about that. Your story matters. Kids don't remember the lecture. If you try to lecture your kids, it's not going to work. They're not going to remember that. I tell parents, if you take their cell phone away, it's not like they're going to go back to you and be like, remember that time you took my cell phone away? I'm so grateful. Thanks, man. Right? They're not going to remember that. They will remember your story. They'll remember your story and the stories that you give. 4 things. You know who did that really well? Jesus did that really well. He took 12 disciples. He spent countless time with his disciples. They would walk together, eat together. And for 3 years, Jesus invested his time, his energy. And they didn't just hang out, but he modeled what his disciples should look like. Not only did he model it, but when he got to that place of influence, when he modeled it, when he built trust, he also mentored them. And he said when they were doing something wrong, he rebuked them. When they were arguing about who was the greatest, Jesus rebuked them. And he mentored them along the way. He showed who to hang out with. He said, hey, this is who needs me. He hung out with the fatherless, the widow, the orphan. And he mentored them. And then finally, when he was leaving, he turned to them and said, I believe in you. Through the power of the Holy Spirit, you can go and make disciples. Go out and make disciples. I've trained you. I've gotten you there. You can do it. You can do it. Through the power of this Holy Spirit, you can do it. You can do it. But let's say, hypothetically, Jesus came, he died on the cross, didn't invest in anybody. I don't think this church would ever exist. There would be no church if Jesus came and died on the cross, invested in nobody. There would be no church. There would be no hope. Where would we be if there was no discipleship? If Jesus didn't invest in those 12? You know, that's how I think about all that's happening with our kids. I think about where would they be if we do not invest in them? Where will they be if we don't take the moments to show up, to motivate, to mentor, to speak words into them? Where would they be? It's not just on us as parents, but it's on us as a church. Where would they be? This is why Generation Bridge was birthed. Because we said we want to do this together. We can do more together. It is possible to do more together. As a church, we can do more together. When our children's ministry and youth ministries and young adults and adult ministries, when we put our ministry plans together, it's not that we put it together and thinking, how can we survive next year? That's not what we're thinking. You know what we're thinking? We're thinking, how can we put this together so that 10 years from now, 20 years from now, we did all that we could do to empower our leaders, empower our church, empower our kids to get to where they are. That we won't be a statistic anymore. That we can be, in those 52 weeks, how can we take full advantage of those 52 weeks to show the world what the family is supposed to be like, what God first intended, the purpose of the family. When we look at the family, how can we take advantage of those 52 weeks? This is why we put Generation Bridge together. That's why this conference was put together. Right? This is why we did this together, because we are better together. This is what this whole conference is about. This is what we want to hope that we can do as a church. And you might be thinking, well, I can't relate to kids. Show up. I'm not talking, you don't have to necessarily show up to kids ministry or youth ministry. Maybe it's someone in your life group. Maybe it's someone in your neighborhood that you just show up. Hang out. It's a first start, just to show up. See what happens. We want to take this moment to empower all of us collectively. So I'm going to leave you with this video. Let's take a look.